Welcome. This is the premiere episode of Raf's Cast, Tales from mohawkad. This podcast is designed to help students get into the advertising industry. My name is Roberto Faria, and I'm a creative professor on the advertising program at Mohawk College in Hamilton, Ontario. Every week, we're getting alumni, people from the industry, and profs to discuss the future and how juniors and students should break into the industry. Our first guest is Roberto Faria, and Roberto is our big name on strategic planning, and he will tell about his experience and what the students should expect on the new normal when everything is over. All right, so thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe after the interview. And here we go, Roberto Faria, first episode. All right. Thank you, Roberto, for accepting the invitation for the premiere release of Raf's Cast, Tales from mohawkad. We're starting here with our strategic planning main teacher, that is Roberto Faria, teaching second years, both creative and business stream students from our advertising and marketing communications program at Mohawk College. So let's start. When you get an interview, I think you need to let the people talk. So, Roberto, welcome, and thank you for accepting the invitation. And I want you to talk about your work experience until you got and how you got to Mohawk.
Okay, so there you go. Thanks very much, Raf, for having me here. It's truly an honor to be here. I'm very happy to be representing the first one representing Mohawk College in your chair. So thank you very much for the invitation. So talking about me, I mean, man, this could be a long podcast if I start talking about my entire career. But I'll be very very honest with you folks. So I joined college for marketing and advertising with like a very slight idea of what I was doing. I had very, I don't know, small knowledge when it comes to what marketing and advertising entails, and decided to pursue that anyway. At the same point, I decided to pursue a robotics engineer, which is quite the opposite. And but that's how the mind works. So my first few months in university, I was doing both. So I was doing both advertising in one of the schools in Brazil and doing robotics engineering in another one, and trying to juggle them. But of course, like long story short, it didn't work. So after a few months, I decided to focus entirely on advertising because I seen that after a few months, that's where my heart was. I started out, and so I am nowadays a strategic planner, but it started out, and that's quite funny because I started out as an art director, and that's not usual, especially within this career. But yeah, that's who I am. I was a creative. I started as an art director. I was working with direct marketing, events, promotions, like the kind of the less fancy stuff that the big advertising agencies would not like to do or didn't want to do at the time. So I was kind of working in a small team, in a small agency that was taking all that kind of work. So because I was working on a small team, I was in charging of doing basically everything that the job entails. So I was not only creating those ideas and creating somewhat beautiful designs to come with them, but I was also the one putting the copy on the pieces I was creating. I was also the one building the decks that were going to be presented. And at some point, like soon enough, I started being the one actually presenting those decks. So it took me just a little bit of amount of time to understand that I was way better at coming up with creative concepts, strategizing ideas, and selling those ideas than actually designing them. I was very honestly, I was quite the mediocre art director, and it started to show. So I started moving my careers towards where my strengths were. I was on strategic side and putting copy to the creation to those creations, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I kind of made that shift from being like this creative person to becoming a strategist. My career progressed within this field, so my next positions kind of reflect that. So I became a strategist, a creative strategist, a senior strategist, and the last agency that I worked back in Brazil, I left being one of their co-creative directors. So I used to share the creative director position with a peer. She would be taking care of everything that would comes to design side of things. I would take care of everything that comes with copy and strategic side. And together we're managing a team of about 12. So that's a little bit of who I am and where I'm coming from, my Brazilian experience. And then I came to Canada and things changed quite a bit. And so I arrived
That
here.
was that was it. That was my second question. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I arrived in Canada. It was the end of 2019. So the US was just went through that house crisis that kind of shaken the market. There was a lot of people unemployed, and I was trying to find my way around advertising, and it never happened. It took me 2 years to find my first job here, and I actually ended up finding a job within an institution or organization that used to do conferences. And I only landed that job there because they were looking for someone who has previously built and work with the logistics around events or conferences, and they were willing to work with to come up with a new conference in Brazil. So it was like, oh, there's this Brazilian guy. He worked with events, has the knowledge around that. Let's hire him, and that's how I got my foot on the door. So left that entire advertising and creative agency experience in my back pocket, and started pursuing what became in a way a new career for me. So I worked at this place for 4 years. I left there being their director of operations, a completely different job. I have to tell that. So that was a position where I had to think of logistics and operations and negotiating agreements and leading teams of over 100 people. Like it was quite crazy and quite different from what I knew up to that point. And I would say that it was what made me the round out or the kind of the profession that I am right now, that has like this broad knowledge, like this kind of breadth of knowledge, and not exactly in a specialized professional. After that position, I moved into tech. So I became an events marketing manager at a tech startup here in Toronto called Intuitive. I stayed there for a year, and then Shopify invited me over to be their marketing manager for their competitions. So and it's funny because Shopify was looking for someone who was able to come up with a communications campaign, with a marketing campaign. So from ideation to the entire go-to-market strategy, figure out all the communication channels, positioning, everything that entails the communication. But they were also looking for someone that had this events experience, because all the competitions they were doing at the time would end up at an event where we bring the winners to like this paradisiac place and host them for a week for them to meet with incredible mentors. So that entire upbringing that I had in my career, becoming like this advertising professional in Brazil and working with events here in Canada, all came together to offer me what I consider like the perfect storm opportunity. That was kind of having this marketing campaign slash events marketing professional needs that they had for me to fulfill that. So kind of in a nutshell, that's exactly that's how I came up to be who I am right now as a professional. And in the meantime, before, and just going a little bit on a parallel here, when trying to get into the advertising industry here in Canada, I connect with a lot of people. I am one of the co-founders of the Account Planning Group of Canada, which opened several different doors for me as well in my career. So yeah, I was kind of always chasing this advertising industry to the side, and that's what led me to connect with Raf, and he started inviting me to be briefing students on what their end of term projects would be, and that quickly evolved for me to actually taking over the strategic planning class and being there for 2 years now, and absolutely love it.
Yeah, we love what you're doing at Mohawk too, Roberto. The students, I think, it really appreciate everything that you're bringing to them
Thanks very much,
so
Raf.
far. So yeah, you're welcome. I'm amazed to hear before we go to the next question how the different experiences in your professional life, even though it was not the experience, sometimes was not the ideal experience. In the end, was the ones that are super valuable to you to get on where you are today, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's indeed true. And looking in hindsight, I would never be where I am right now if it wasn't for all those forks on the road. So, and that's one thing that we all going to be facing at some point or another. Like curveballs are going to be thrown at us, and we'll have to understand how to better deal with them. And at close and at first, we might not see this as, I don't know, good career moves or places where you should be going or your career will be taking you. But you can two different things, right? One of them, you're definitely going to be benefiting from this experience because within, like, honestly, within advertising and marketing, most of the skills that we have to be performing in these positions are soft skills. So they're highly transferable from one position to another, which is amazing. So it doesn't matter if you're going to be getting a lot of experience in an area which that is not exactly your focus. You can always reframe that experience to reflect where you want to go next. And the second thing
Mm-hmm.
is that you have to learn to roll with the punches, right? It's going to be happening in your career. It's going to be happening in the campaigns you're going to be developing. You're going to be creating like amazing concepts, and they're going to be backfiring at you. And this is going to be helping you in developing like this thicker skin. It's going to be allowing you to be more, I don't know, better responsive and less, I would say, less reactive to things because you've been there and done that. You know that these things are about to happen, so you can plan in advance.
That's great advice. That comes down with my second question that is completely related to what you just said. In which direction are you saying advertising is going nowadays with the world the way it is with the pandemic?
That's a good one, and it's funny because I was asked that by students last year. Okay, so what is your take on the advertising industry nowadays, and where do you think it's going? And that's one of the many things that I told them is that um, we have to say and we have to acknowledge that, right? So first and foremost, right, with the arrival of the digital channels that we have in front of us right now, and like all the digital communication, the digital life that we live, that is not digital anymore; it's just life. Uh, the business had been accelerated to a level that we never saw before. So on the pre-internet times, you would get a briefing, and you have to work like 3 months to work on that briefing and come up with a amazing campaign that are going to be presented to the client. Like 6 months later, that campaign is going to be aired. Like this, mostly this is not happening anymore, right? So the reality is, yes,
Hmm.
we still have the brand campaigns, right? We still have the mass campaigns, the ones that are going to be uh, building brands. They're going to be helping building up positioning. They're going to be helping telling your brand story. But the clients nowadays also need like a really agile team that can deliver work on what I heard someone saying that the other day. I was like, this is so cheesy, but still, that's a reality. That can deliver work on the what they call the speed of life within those channels, right? So yes, you're going to be
Hmm.
working on campaigns that are going to be longer term and going to be mass media, but you have to be on the social channels, you have to be reacting and conducting conversations and reacting on the Facebooks, Twitters, and TikToks of the world because that's where your customers are nowadays, right? So whether that the thing that changed in the
Right.
industry that I would say right now is that before we just had this single campaign that would work and would air on mass media and that's it. Right now you still have that umbrella campaign that is going to be helping you position what your brand is and what it entails and the story that it wants to tell, but you have to accommodate within this umbrella all those kind of quicker and smaller touch points that are going to be activating your clients, are going to be putting your brand in front of a client at different moments of their day so that they keep your brand or communication or services or whatever it is they're selling relevant within what they want. And they want, and this needs to be done with coherence, right? So you cannot have an agency working on your mass umbrella campaign and then have a secondary person working on your day-to-day things because you're going to be lacking that coherency and you're going to be losing a lot of the punch that you could have there. So like this is the first big change that we face and the one that is consolidated right now. So second, there's data. So everyone talks about data, big data, organizing data, fighting insights from data, and everything that you folks already heard from them. So a reality is that never in the history of advertising we have had this amount of data that we have nowadays to help us informing our decisions. And the clients, yes, because they have all this data in their hands, they are definitely doubling down on that. And they're like, oh, we want all decisions should be data driven, we want our campaigns should be data driven, so forth, so on. The flip side of this coin is that never in the history of advertising advertising has been so boring and so uninspiring. I mean, on average, right? So yes, we still have like this amazing campaigns that kind of stand out, but the state of advertising nowadays is not exactly what it was back in the day. And my read from it is that we let data dominate the conversation too much. And we give data the front seat in our car and let it guide the conversation. And it took us to a place where we're not exactly liking. So I think that clients perceive that nowadays as well. And I actually think that they're swinging the pendulum a bit back to kind of balance this output, this more creative output, and not only solely relying on what data is saying. So that's good from an advertising perspective because it gives us the opportunity for us to shine. So we talked about the change on the digital landscape, and digital landscape is such a node word, but change of landscape. And we talked about like the coming and in a way the going per se of data. And I think that the big change that I'm seeing on the industry right now as well comes on the advertising structure, right? So advertising agency structure, right? So from a structure perspective, agencies are indeed reducing headcount because the amount of work that they're doing nowadays changed because a lot of the work that used to be done by agencies are now being done by media channels like Facebook's and Google AdWords, like by self-serve and direct serving services. So agencies are kind of losing their revenue. So what happens is that they are decreasing that headcount. And the movement that I'm seeing right now is that agencies are tending to keep what they would call their key elements from leadership to the entire personnel, I would say, and they are turning on and turning off different professionals, different specialties according to the expertise of those professionals, right? So if you have a problem that you need to solve with digital, you're going to be kind of figuring out who the best digital players in the world are when it comes to creating and strategizing, copywriting on that, and invite those people to come to your agency and help you in solving the problem. If you're going to be talking about direct marketing, you're going to be finding who these people are and kind of turning that on and turning like the digital off and kind of trying to work on that problem. So the reality is that the market nowadays is way more um, self-employed in a way, is way more temporary positions driven that it was in the past. And this is good and this is bad. It's good because you have complete freedom for you to go wherever you want and where the money is or where your calling is taking you. But it's bad because if you're not within an agency structure, it's a little bit harder for you to break in. You lose a little bit of those elements of mentorship, of leadership that you have when you're working within a bigger structure of representation, seeing who are sitting there with you on the table and making those decisions. The biggest, I would say, right side of it all is that with this kind of turn on, turn off kind of thing, with this remote work kind of thing that we are right now, this remote work reality that we are right now, this enables all of us to be working whenever and whatever we want, right? So from our houses and from our dorms in Hamilton, we can be working with the best agencies in the world, with the best agencies in New York, LA, Chicago, or even agencies in Asia if we feel like that, because there are no boundaries anymore, because you can develop that work from wherever you are. And I think that's a good
So,
thing.
so Roberto, you think entrepreneurship and being freelance and or small specialized boutiques are the way to go?
I think yes, there are a lot of elements to it. Yes, I think that more and more each individual, each professional should be developing their own entrepreneurial skills, and by those entrepreneurial skills and this entrepreneurial mindset, I mean like it's seeing opportunities instead of problems. It's understanding where you're going to be taking your own personal brand to and how you're going to be presenting yourself. You're going to be using yourself as a product, as a position yourself as a product as well, instead of just being that professional that is available for hiring, right? So you have to develop these different skills that you wouldn't have back in the day, because now you're gonna be working more towards that. Yes.
And what do you think about the market for juniors, for the students who are just fresh from the college? And that's the main question because I think just fresh from the college, you start doing freelance already or get some experience first. What do you think?
That's a good point. So the thing about the situation, the scenario that we are right now is that because of this change of speed of communications that I mentioned, right? There's a complete new door that has been opened to marketing and advertising students, professionals, in a broader sense that was closed for us before, right? So a lot of brands and a lot of corporations are bringing creative teams and branding teams in house. And so that happened back in the day. It wasn't exactly what it was supposed to be, and now there's a new try for that because they want a communications team or an agency or a creative team that can be working on a different level for themselves, for their own brand and to telling their own stories and at a speed that you cannot have from an agency. So that's amazing. We also have now a lot of brands who are direct to consumer who are completely skipping all the usual delivery channels or marketplaces that we used to think about. So
Hmm.
you come to think of, I don't know, Kylie Jenner's beauty brand selling direct to consumers. Kylie needs someone to be helping her with packaging, with creative, with ads and all that. And there is a team, surely there is a team that has been built around that. And that was not reality just a few years ago. So that's a good thing that has happened that definitely students nowadays can benefit from it. That said, the market right now at this specific moment is very rough. And I have to be honest about that, right? Just today, I heard about a few friends who were laid off from Publicis here in Toronto and were affected by that. So that's a reality. But that's mostly driven because of the pandemic. Uh, that said, and to counter that, because because we are in this ever shifting environment, and because I mentioned the pandemic, I'm going to bring that up. So we changed the speed, we changed the data that we have, and now we completely changed the scenario that we have. We don't know what the future is going to be entailing for all of us. The
Hmm.
clients never needed us more. They need professionals who have that kind of their eyes on what the future is going to be bringing, then know this new channels that is right to thrive in this new reality, and that is going to be helping them navigating that. They are too close to what they have done in the past and have succeeded, and they are incredibly scared of what's coming in front of them because the deck was shuffled and the cards were dealt again, and they are not really with the best hands in front of them. So that's a big thing that is an opportunity for you students right now to take on.
So do you agree with even though it is a completely shift market, there's a lot of opportunities too. They're never being
Yeah,
available for them.
yeah, I
Okay.
completely agree with that. And as I mentioned before, it's not that you're in Toronto, you're going to be working with Toronto agencies. Now you can work with anyone and everyone in the world. So if you are seeking, I don't know, to give an example, if you're seeking some sort of specialization on e-commerce marketing, for instance, just because I don't know, I work with Shopify and kind of know about that. If you're seeking that kind of a specialization, like you can work from brands from all over the world. Like you can work from brands in Europe and the US and Asia and all that, and kind of be the go-to person for that. And for all areas, we're going to be finding specializations yourself. You could be that person. You don't have boundaries anymore, and that's the biggest opportunity at all. You can see, yes, businesses are closing in front of us, and kind of those walk-in opportunities and agencies are closing around us. But the world is our oyster nowadays, and that wasn't, and the pandemic just accelerated that to the levels that we're finding right now.
That's extremely interesting. Well, when it comes for the one of the questions, important questions here, what would you would do if you were advertising student right now?
That is a really, really good one. Really good one. Um, I have a few things to say about that. So I think that aside from everything else that you already know, already been taught on at college, and you're going to be learning about the industry, like everything that you need to know when it comes to production, post production, and media, mass media, communication, and like everything around that, there are a few specific areas that you should be starting to dip your toes on. So as I mentioned, like I think it's very important for new advertising or advertising students or the new advertising professionals to understand data. And I'm not saying that, oh, you have to be like that data nerd that is going to be going through all the numbers and crunching them and kind of figure out things, but you need to understand how to read data and how to get insights from it. And most importantly, you have to understand how to present them. I guess that's the hardest, right? We show up at the client, we have like this incredible data, this spreadsheet full of numbers, and we put in front of them, and they're looking at us and it's like, I have no idea what we're trying to say with this. So kind of finding ways to
Mm-hmm.
present, getting insights, but presenting those insights that are getting from this data is something that is going to be super important. I also think that what I would pursue, so aside from better understanding data, would be also better understanding some marketing automation tools. So listen, yes, you have to figure out the new channels, the TikToks, the Snapchats, or whatever is going to be coming next of the word. WhatsApp, important as well. Like everything that we have to understand that, but we have to understand marketing automation tools too, because those are the tools that are going to be allowing us to be in front of our potential clients and potential consumers, uh, no matter where they are. And with contextual messages, they're going to be relevant for them, right? So now we know, because people have phones on them, we know where they are at all times, like their geolocation, who they're, who they're talking to, who they're interacting with, which stage they are in your marketing funnel. And you have to be able to understand this so that you can provide customized messages that are going to be keeping yourself relevant in that new reality, right? It makes absolutely no
Mm-hmm.
sense for you to be seeing, I don't know, a takeout food ad at your at your channel of choice, at your screen of choice, right after lunchtime. You already ordered lunch. Like, why the hell am I showing that? I'm not hungry anymore. Just wasting money with that, right? So these are some of the things
Yes.
that I think are very important. The other one, and I think that relates to what you teach as well, Raf, is that I would,
Yep.
when it comes to building a portfolio, I would try to develop like a few very good ideas exploring new channels. So we know that portfolios are usually very focused on traditional channels, on media, print, radio, and like telling those stories because you have to showcase that you can tell those stories. Yes, this
Not
is pretty good.
not our portfolios.
Nice to hear. That's very nice to hear because
Not our portfolios for a long time.
that's the
Yeah.
opportunity that the students have to shine, right? So
Yep.
so one, one,
Yep.
one really important thing that students have to keep in mind, and it's great that you folks are doing that, is that you're going to be hired by your potential. Like you're going to be coming up with good ideas, and you're going to be coming up with like, all this portfolio is going to be beautiful, and the creative director is going to look at it and say like, yes, those are good ideas. But what they're going to be seeing through all that is whether you have the potential to be delivering against the challenges that they have, right? Because I don't know. We all can create like great ads for Nike or for Apple, I presume. But if you're working with RBC, for instance, like how can you be great by working with a bank and having like the most boring kind of communication ever, right? So that's what you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be showcasing through a portfolio. And the old dudes like with us in the world, we tend to think that we saw all the great ideas already that were developed for media, for mass media, for TV, radio, and print, right? So when you come up with these new ideas on how you're going to be working, I don't know, with TikTok, or developing an app or a Snapchat, like whatever, like you're going to be showcasing me something that is completely new and is going to be showing how you think on a broader level, and it's going to be really showcasing your potential. So yes, I would definitely focus on these ideas I have in your portfolio, and I would take Raf on this promise that yes, your folks are going to be developing a portfolio that reflects that, because this is
Oh
indeed
yes.
very important.
Especially our other teacher Jeff. He's the one who managed portfolios. He's been doing amazing on this for years now.
Yeah,
So yeah, he'll be here for in a few weeks as an interviewer too.
amazing. Jeff's a
So
great guy. Yeah, and you folks kind of just go for him and say like, Jeff, make sure that you're pushing me to my extreme edges here, to my extreme boundaries here, because again, this is what's going to be making you stand out. One thing to learn to understand in advertising is that still to this day, most of the jobs are being taken by referrals, right? And just to complement my answer, Raf, I'm not going to be extending it here much,
sure,
but
no, go ahead.
yeah, but most of the jobs on the market are being filled by people that was referred, because people know someone on, they're part of the network, they shook hands, they know each other. For whatever reason, someone was referred to a position, and that person ended up being hired. So if you're not the one being referred, you have to have a strong portfolio that is so strong that is going to be overcoming that referral and that kind of friendly connection that your gatekeeper is going to be having with someone else. Associated to that, another thing that I would be doing as a student is that I would be out there trying to connect with all the advertising industry peeps that you find in front of you and around, because you will need those connections in your career. So make sure that you're, I don't know, use LinkedIn or Twitter to reach out to those folks and try to grab a virtual coffee with them now, like just 15 minutes to talk about their careers. And that's brilliant because we all love to talk about ourselves. You see, I've been talking here for half an hour about myself and what I think, and we all love doing that. It's a very human nature that we have on doing this thing. So reach out to those guys. Tell to these folks, tell them that you admire their careers and you want to grab a coffee to understand how they arrived there, and start establishing those connections. Like the small handshakes they're going to be having now are going to be the ones who are actually going to be decisive in your career moving forward. And by that I mean not only the people who are in the industry right now, but look around you. Look at your colleagues. People who are going to they're going to college with you in Mohawk, like second year students, first year students, third year students. Connect with them as well, because they are the industry. 5 years from now, they are going to be the ones there. They're going to be the gatekeepers, and it's important for you to be making those connections as of now. So work on that as well, because this is going to be like incredibly important.
Roberto, it's been amazing to listen to you, man. It's a great advice, and let's go through our final question here on the episode. And I agree with the peers being your first line of network is your teachers and your colleagues in the class, and it's very important to maintain a good relationship with them, I think.
Yeah, I
Uh,
totally with you there, Raf. And the one thing I can tell, so last year we had a panel with two strategy professionals who are like, one of them is a agency founder, the other one was is a senior strategy nowadays at a big agency, and
mhm.
just a few of my students last year ended up connecting with them after the panel. And it's such a missed opportunity, right? So come to think that those professionals who are incredibly busy and incredibly well succeeded in their careers are dedicating an hour of their time to be in front of students to be answering questions. They
Mhm.
already opened up the door for you. So why don't you take the opportunity to introduce themselves and thank them for the opportunity, and try to establish that connection, take them a little bit the next step, right? A little bit further. So that's what I'm saying, right? Take those opportunities, see those opportunities happening in front of you, and take advantage of them. I'm not saying like go ahead and kind of stalk these people, but make sure that you're doing it the right way. They're introducing yourselves and saying the thank you words, and you're going to be connecting with them at a later moment and the whatnots, right?
Uh, yes, I think most of the students will relate to that kind of information because we bring a lot of guest speakers.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, not live this year, but they can actually ask for a contact and contact them later if they have a Zoom session with a guest speaker this year. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so they should push forward every single opportunity they have to connect.
Yeah, and then
Roberto, what?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And then there's the internet as
No.
well, right? So because we don't have boundaries anymore, because of this remote work kind of thing we are on right now, and is not going to
Hmm.
change, you can do that online as well, right? So there's a
Oh yes.
great community on Facebook, for instance, that is called Sweathead. It's built by this guy, Mark
Yeah,
Pollard.
I'm there.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I'm there as well.
It's great.
It's amazing. It's a community of strategists and mostly advertising professionals. And they are open to help you in developing your own projects. They're working to give you tips. They're working in working with you, introducing you to different people. Like the opportunities are out there. You just have to keep an eye from that and make that happen. So online is especially Strat had from Mark Pollard on Facebook. It's a big community that everyone should be a part of.
I will post a link on the description of everything that we talk here. And I was just I had knowledge of the sweat hat because of Roberto. It's amazing in there. I think they just launched a book, isn't it, Roberto?
Yeah, that's true. Mark Pollard just launched a book. It's called "Strategy is Your Words," and I read the reviews. He was not selling internationally up to last week. Now he's shipping to all over the world. It was U.S. only first, and but the reviews that I heard about it were raving. So if you are into strategy and you want to kind of dip your toes into these waters, "Strategy is Your Words" by Mark Pollard is a great start.
Even if you go creative or account, if you get the most knowledge of strategy, it will help your career tremendously.
Yes,
whatever direction you go.
yes, because you're going
Because
to
I
be,
think it's the
yeah.
he's the midfield. Yeah.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, because you're going to be working by yourself a lot, this is part of the entrepreneurial skills that you need yourself, right? If you, I taught this to my students this year, and I mentioned it to them last year as well, is that the advertising, sorry, the strategic planning part of the advertising industry is not large, especially here in Canada. It's even smaller than the rest of the world. So most of the strategic work that is done by an agency is expected to be done by either the account person or the creative person. Here in Canada, it's a little bit uncommon for you to have a strategist as a fixed position within an agency. So you have to work those muscles. You have to build those muscles around strategic thinking and having like this strategic mindset, because this is going to be expected from you. And when it comes to a kind of worldwide workforce environment that we are right now, this is going to be definitely something that's going to be distinguishing you from other professionals.
Roberto, I wanted you to finish telling your favorite campaign from the past months.
Past months, I'm going to go beyond that if you don't mind.
Of course.
Cool. So I really really like purpose driven campaigns. I really think that those are the campaigns that take brands to the next level, that allows us to connect with them in a more human way. So the campaigns that I really have on my radar right now that I absolutely loved, and so those are the ones kind of doing quick thinking here, is that one of them is the one developed by Sid Lee for the Raptors. It's the With the North. It was, I don't know, that was like 5 years ago, I guess, that they came up with that, and that was a complete cultural shift when it comes to being the NBA, the only NBA team that is kind of north of the border. They nailed that in the head. They understood the sentiment around the Raptors and how that unified the country, and they kind of doubled on that and came up with the North positioning that is brilliant. And it was reinforced by luck by Game of Thrones, and it was amazing to see that happening. But it was a brilliant, brilliant insight that they had that turned out to become like this great positioning being used nowadays, like broadly from all of us, right? So with the North from the Raptors is a big one. From the past few months, now that you mentioned that, Patagonia came up with this. So they had this campaign called "Don't Buy This Jacket." So basically, they're saying like, don't buy jackets from Patagonia. They are going to be lasting your entire life, and they actually can fix your jackets for you if you bring them in. Don't buy a new one because we don't want to see the word resources going scarce as they are right now. And now they just they shifted a little bit, or they complemented that message by adding to the back of their cloth tags the phrasing that says "vote the assholes out." And that's amazing, right? How bold does a brand have to be taking a move like this? And do you think Patagonia would be able to come up with something like this if there wasn't, I don't know, the "don't buy this jacket" and all the other positions before? I don't think so. I think it would sound kind of
Hmm.
a little bit too shallow or too fake. But for them, it's just natural, and they're not being partisan here, because vote the assholes out mean like vote everyone that you think doesn't deserve to be there out, and that's the true messaging there. And then there's one also that was developed here in Canada from Leo Burnett, if I'm not mistaken, and it's always like a girl for always, and that's a beautiful one. I mean, it's a this idea. If you're not familiar with that, they just changed this. They try to challenge the concept of like a girl being something that is derogatory, that is bad, to something that is actually really good, because they saw by doing research that girls from before the girls getting going puberty, they think that doing things like a girl is doing things bravely and fiercely and like in like an edgy way. When girls go through puberty, they start thinking that doing things like a girl is it becomes a bad thing. It becomes like doing things softly, or doing things in a way ashamed, or doing things in a way not in fully. And always figured it out that this was happening, and kind of shed a light on that. Why do we use like a girl in a derogatory way? Why do we use it like a girl in a way that diminishes women all over the world so commonly? And the most brilliant thing about this campaign for always, I think, is that
Hmm.
always as a product itself is start to be used, or to be the product being chosen by these women exactly at puberty. So when the shift on that conversation happen is when these girls are starting to interact with the brand. So by being positioned, by positioning themselves, they're saying like, we're here to stand for you and to give you the trust that you need. They're bringing that trust back to the product, and it's a tampon, right? So you have to trust that this product is going to be working. So you can be yourself through the day. So I think it's a brilliant one, and it was developed here in Canada as well. So I would say that those are the three ones that I would like to highlight here.
And I agree with you that that kind of a campaign to change the mentality and shift will be the ones who really stand out nowadays.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, Roberto, I really appreciate amazing insight, and thank you for being on the first episode of Restcast. And we're gonna thank you very much once again, and we're gonna return on for the next one. And once again, thank you, Roberto, for being our first guest.
Thank you very much, Raf. It was really a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks very much, my friend.
All right, until next time, take care from Rafcast from Mohawk College Advertising Program. Hashtag mohawkad.